you get some of that good Snoop weed?
I've smoked with Unc before, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get some of that good Snoop weed? That line right there, Lauren said it herself, laughing with that easy vibe that made people think it was all friendly. But now, things are looking way different. At first, everyone assumed Snoop and Lauren London were just cool like that. Mutual respect, Hollywood industry.
Yeah, but you don't know till it's at your front door. I always say the front row at the funeral is different. You know, when you have to sit on, like, you know, I've been at a lot of funerals.
I bet.
I've never sat front row at one. That's different.
What does that do to you?
Shift your perspective on life. You know what I mean? Make you see not only that it's life short, but that it's a gift, you know, and because everyone's time is so different.
Kind of bond. But new footage of the two together has fans talking non-stop. Some say it's proof of a deeper link, and others are convinced Lauren might have played a bigger role in Snoop's recent chaos than anyone expected. Let's break it down. Snoop Dogg and Lauren London, one short clip sent the entire hip-hop world into full-blown panic. This wasn't just Snoop being Snoop, cracking jokes, or doing one of his chill Uncle Snoop skits. Nah, this footage hit different. It showed Snoop standing right beside Lauren London, the woman forever tied to Nipsey Hussle's legacy, and people couldn't believe what they were seeing. Now here's where it gets wild. Lauren London wasn't just another face in Nipsey's circle, she was the circle. From her heartbreaking speech at Nipsey's memorial in the Staples Center to that unforgettable tribute at the BET Awards, Lauren became the voice of his legacy. Every word she spoke, every tear she shed, hit deep. She became the symbol of Nipsey's loss, the public heartbeat of everything he stood for. Brands rushed to feature her, shows handed her the mic for every tribute, and documentaries used her voice to carry Nipsey's story across the world. She didn't ask for the spotlight, it was given to her because the culture demanded it. People needed to see her, hear her, feel Nipsey through her. That's what made Lauren more than a grieving partner. She turned into a living symbol of his empire. So when someone stood beside Lauren, they weren't just beside a woman. They were beside Nipsey's entire legacy. And that's why this new clip caused such a storm. Seeing Snoop next to Lauren didn't look casual, it looked intentional. In a culture where Nipsey's legacy is still being guarded like treasure, that single frame had everyone whispering, "What's really going on here?" But to understand why the reaction hit so hard, you have to rewind to the day Nipsey was taken from the world. When those shots went off outside the Marathon store, Los Angeles didn't just lose a rapper, it lost a leader, a builder, a visionary who turned his block into a movement. His death tore through the city like an earthquake. When a man grows bigger than the block, love and hate start running side by side. Loyalty gets tested and betrayal waits in the shadows. That's exactly what happened right after Nipsey's passing. His brother, Black Sam, stepped up as the protector. He wasn't just mourning, he was guarding the empire. Sam made it crystal clear that Nipsey's legacy would never fall into the wrong hands. Anyone who tried to profit off his brother's name or disrespect his memory was going to feel the consequences, fast. Those weren't empty words, they were a warning. Sam knew the vultures would come circling the second Nipsey was gone. He saw how people move when there's power and profit on the line, and he wasn't about to let anyone turn Nipsey's name into their hustle. But here's where it all starts to twist. Nipsey's empire wasn't built on just paperwork or business deals. It was built on relationships, real connections, loyalty, and street bonds that carried history, pain, and power. And when that kind of foundation starts shaking, the drama doesn't stay quiet for long. By standing next to Lauren London, Snoop wasn't just sharing a moment, he was positioning himself right beside Nipsey Hussle's memory. And when you get that close to Nipsey's legacy, you gain more than attention, you gain credibility. That credibility boosts your name, your influence, and your place in the game. Snoop suddenly looked like the elder statesman of the West Coast, the man carrying the torch forward. To some, it felt natural. Snoop's been repping Cali for decades, but to others, it felt off, even predatory. Either way, one thing was clear. This move had serious consequences. That one piece of footage became more than a moment. It turned into a symbol of something way bigger. It represented a silent power struggle for Nipsey's throne. Because make no mistake, there was a throne. If you believe what Chuge said earlier about Snoop, you'd understand why so many people don't buy the story that Nipsey was just taken out by a random shooter. According to them, there were forces behind the scenes, powerful ones, ready to destabilize everything Nipsey built and make sure his empire was left vulnerable. And who did Chuge accuse of playing both sides? Snoop Dogg. That's why this footage hit the culture like an earthquake. It wasn't about what the camera literally showed, it was about what it meant. To Nipsey's family and fans, it looked like outsiders creeping into sacred ground. It looked like the streets losing control while the industry stepped in and took over. To the fans, that clip felt like proof of what they'd been whispering since 2019, that something about Snoop's moves didn't sit right. And honestly, why wouldn't people be suspicious? Everyone knows who Snoop is, and everyone remembers the history he carries. Let's not forget, Tupac Shakur, one of the most legendary artists to ever touch a mic, was murdered in Las Vegas in 1996. Since that night, the story's been retold 1,000 different ways, but one detail keeps circling back. People keep pointing fingers at those who were closest to Pac. And time after time, Snoop's name somehow ends up in that mix. Here's why. When Pac was alive, Snoop wasn't just his collaborator. He was supposed to be his brother in arms. They made music together, partied together, rocked stages together. But behind the cameras, Snoop was getting cozy with the same people Pac called enemies. Take Big Dre, for example. Allegedly one of the men in the car with Keith D the night Pac was shot. You think anyone loyal to Pac would steer clear of that circle, right? Not Snoop. Instead, he worked with Big Dre on a mixtape after Pac's death. That move left a lot of people speechless. See, when Tupac died in '96, Snoop's relationship with him had already been strained. Pac had started questioning who was really down for him, but once Pac was gone, Snoop became one of the loudest mourners, speaking on the pain, aligning himself with the tragedy, and reshaping his public image in the process. He turned the heartbreak into a way to rebrand himself in the game. Think about that for a second. Your so-called brother is murdered, the suspects are still walking free, and instead of keeping distance, you're out here cutting records with the very people connected to his death. That's not loyalty. That's a move that makes people question everything. And the story doesn't end there. Over the years, Snoop's been caught multiple times twisting details about Pac, switching up narratives, and embellishing stories for attention. Fans have seen the pattern. Every time the past comes back around, Snoop finds a way to make himself the center of it. It's a history full of blurred lines, and that's why when this clip with Lauren surfaced, everyone started asking, is Snoop really honoring legacies or rewriting them? Nipsey dies. Snoop cries. Snoop calls him my dear brother and our king. Then just days later, he drops a tribute record. Loud, emotional, perfectly timed. He tells the world that Nipsey was the new Snoop, the next generation of West Coast greatness. Fans, still drowning in grief, soaked it all in. But when you start to look closer, things stop adding up. Yes, Snoop warned Nipsey about the dangers around him, but not long after, Snoop was spotted hanging out with Big U, the same man Nipsey himself had called out. Nipsey had a whole diss track aimed straight at Big U, making it crystal clear he wasn't going to be controlled or extorted by anybody. Everyone in the streets knew what was going on. Big U was allegedly shaking Nipsey down, forcing him to pay protection fees just to move freely. And when Nipsey stopped paying, tragedy followed. Yet somehow, Snoop still found comfort in Big U's company. That didn't sit right with a lot of people. It felt like deja vu. Once again, the same story playing out like a twisted rerun. Just like with Tupac, just like with Biggie. When the legends are alive, Snoop gets seen hanging around the people they warn against. But when those legends are gone, suddenly Snoop steps forward as the heartbroken brother, rewriting the story and placing himself right in the center of their legacy. It's a move people have noticed more than once, and now it's got fans side-eyeing every tribute he makes. That's why people say Nipsey's death wasn't just a random street hit, it was something deeper. Eric Holder may have pulled the trigger, but Eric didn't mastermind the whole plan. There were bigger players behind the curtain, powerful people who had everything to lose if Nipsey kept winning. And now, with new footage and leaks surfacing, it's starting to look like Snoop's actions might be revealing what the streets have whispered for years. Some are even claiming that Lauren London wasn't just caught in the crossfire, she might have unknowingly been part of the circle surrounding Nipsey's downfall. Towards the end of his life, Nipsey had started pulling away from industry parties, declining certain invitations, refusing to check in, and standing firm against any kind of extortion. He was taking control of his destiny. But what if someone close to him was still tied to those same forces he was trying to escape? What if that's why things went down the way they did? Because one thing about Snoop, he always lands on his feet. Time and time again, he's proven he knows how to survive every storm. The ripple effect of Nipsey's death only seemed to strengthen his position, not shake it. He became a spokesperson, a peacemaker, and once again, the center of a narrative built on someone else's tragedy. When Nipsey Hussle was killed on March 31st, 2019, it wasn't just another sad headline in hip-hop, it was an earthquake. The shockwaves didn't just hit Los Angeles, they spread across the entire world. Nipsey wasn't just a rapper, people played in their cars, he was a blueprint. Proof that you could come from the same blocks that broke others and still build something legendary. He showed that you could make it out without selling your soul, without letting the system own you. Fans didn't just love Nipsey for his music, they loved him for what he stood for. He didn't just rap about ownership, he owned his masters. He didn't just talk about reinvesting in his community, he actually built businesses in Crenshaw, creating real jobs for people everyone else had given up on. He didn't just drop bars about loyalty, he lived it, staying rooted in his hood even when fame and money gave him every reason to leave. So when news broke that Nipsey had been gunned down in front of the Marathon store, the very place he built as a symbol of growth and hope, it hit like a punch to the heart. Los Angeles froze that day. Crowds poured into the streets, gathering outside the store with flowers, candles, handwritten notes, and murals. People cried openly, hugging strangers they'd never met because it felt like everyone had lost a family member. Nipsey wasn't just the voice of South Central, he was the soul of it. His reach went far beyond LA. His message stretched across oceans, inspiring people everywhere to stand tall, own their work, and never let anyone control their story. That's why even years later, the pain still lingers, and why every new piece of footage, every rumor, and every questionable alliance still feels like reopening an old wound. Maybe it wasn't just Eric Holder behind that gun. Maybe the real danger came from inside Nipsey's own circle. The people who should have been protecting him might have been the ones leaving the door open for his enemies. That's the thought haunting fans even now. They're not just grieving Nipsey anymore, they're furious. Furious at the whispers that someone with real power might have been pulling strings from the shadows. Some people point at Diddy, saying his reach in the industry runs so deep that nothing happens without his approval. The idea that he could have been moving pieces behind the scenes has fans heated. And then there's the suggestion that Lauren London, the same woman who cried her heart out on stage for Nipsey, might have been closer to Diddy's inner circle than anyone ever knew. That revelation alone has people stunned. But what really pushes everyone over the edge is Snoop Dogg, Nipsey's so-called brother, who always seems to pop up at the center of these tragedies, delivering emotional tributes while questions about his loyalty hang heavy in the air. That's when the heartbreak started to change shape. The grief turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into full-blown outrage. And now that outrage has turned into a demand for answers, because fans aren't satisfied with the simple story anymore. Eric Holder did it doesn't explain the whole picture. People are seeing something much bigger, something that feels organized, controlled, and cold. To them, Nipsey wasn't just murdered by one man. He was silenced by a system built on power, greed, betrayal, and manipulation. Every new leak, every clip, every rumor just adds more fuel to that theory. The footage showing Snoop and Lauren looking too close for comfort, the alleged tapes linking Lauren to Diddy's world, the reminders of Snoop's tangled past with Tupac and Biggie, it's all starting to connect in people's minds. And once you start connecting those dots, it paints a dark picture. It starts to feel like Nipsey's death wasn't just the end of the marathon. It was the beginning of a new kind of race, one filled with secrets and survival. Because what the fans and artists really lost that day wasn't just Nipsey himself, it was the future he was building, the hope, the blueprint, the independence he stood for. It all vanished with him. And the hardest truth of all, that future might not have been stolen by strangers on the outside, it might have been taken by the very people who stood right beside him. The same faces smiling in photos, giving speeches, and holding tributes might have been the ones who knew more than they ever let on. That's why years later, the questions still echo louder than the answers. Because when legends fall, it's never just about who fired the shot. It's about who benefited after the smoke cleared.